Everything's on fire. Everything's on fire. Everything's on fire.
Welcome back, Heat Seekers, to the Week 9 Waiver Wire Ads Show. I want a full disclosure first. Not everything is as it appears. So before you go out and start spending all your budget and your waiver priority on guys like DJ Dallas and some of these other guys, pay attention to this video. We'll help you out. We'll guide you along the path to keep you away from making crazy moves for guys that probably are only 1 week wonders while their true starters are hurt. Don't jump to the gun. Don't jump to conclusions. But before we get into all that, Mr. Sullivan, how are you? How was your fantasy Sunday?
I'm doing great. Thank you very much. I had a pretty darn good week. Only one mental error. I left Chris Carson in one of my lineups, and I just got too many bloody teams. But anyway, no, it's been a good week. I'm glad to be here, and hopefully we can help some folks out tonight.
We're scraping the bottom of that barrel, but we're going to do it.
Yeah, this was fun this week, for sure.
Yeah, so we'll get it started with quarterbacks like always. But before we do that, if you've enjoyed our waiver wire videos, if you appreciate everything Mr. Sullivan and the team is doing here at RotoHeat on YouTube, hit the like, the subscribe, the notification icon, do all the fun things, post comments, have the conversation with us. We like to chat. We appreciate it. Without further ado, quarterbacks. So we got 3. Not the most exciting, but all of them had okay fantasy weeks and are good in a pinch if you need the help. So we've got Phillip Rivers from the Colts, Kirk Cousins from the Vikings, your Vikings, and Nick Foles from the Chicago Bears. All of them are very low. Actually, all are less than 30% owned on the different fantasy platforms. How do you feel about these 3? And going into week 9, do you trust them?
I don't. I think these are 3 guys that you might be able to pick up and stream in week 9. Rivers looks like he's getting the most out of the weapons that are there in his offense. He loves to check down, and he's got some nice pass-catching running backs there, so they're helping him out. Cousins didn't do anything today. He threw 14 passes, I think. One of them was a 50-yard reception by Dalvin Cook for a touchdown. But if the game flips over, Cousins has shown that he can throw the ball and he can go downfield and he can take his shots. You just have to be prepared to take the bad that might come with the good with him. And Nick Foles is a wild card. I thought Foles looked really good in the second half of today's game, bringing the Bears back and getting him into overtime against the Saints. These aren't guys I want to pick up and I'm, locking into my lineup for the rest of the season. I think these are guys that you're picking up if your regular starter's on bye or, you just need to play some upside. Rivers has the Ravens next week, so that's not the greatest. Cousins and Foles both have better matchups. I think Cousins has your Lions, and Foles has Tennessee, who's been pretty accommodating to opposing quarterbacks and wide receivers. What's your take on this trio of quarterbacks?
Yeah, I mean, the Lions' defense makes quarterbacks look good, so I'm sure Cousins will have a field day with Goff, Baker, and Joe Burrow on bye in Week 9. Any one of these guys are probably playable based on their matchups. Obviously, Rivers against the Ravens could go either way. The Ravens do allow quarterbacks to move the ball on them. They're not, the staunch defense we've seen previously, but it's not amazing either. Titans have let quarterbacks move the ball down the field and rack up those points as well. So I'm really comfortable with any of these matchups. I'm probably, if I'm having to kind of weigh them based on what we're looking at, I would go Cousins, then I would probably go Foles, then Rivers. But Rivers and Foles, you could be a toss-up. I mean, their matchups are both kind of, it could go one way or the other for them. Cousins would be the clear-cut top of that list of 3 for me.
I don't disagree. Do not pick up Ben DiNucci, just in case you were thinking about that. Oof.
Not in a redraft format. Ben DiNucci is not winning.
Not so good.
Yeah, the poor rookie is getting thrown into the fire and probably wasn't ready for it.
Correct.
So at running back, we've got, JaMychal Hasty, running back from the San Francisco 49ers. Nyheim Hines, running back from the Indianapolis Colts, who obviously had a field day against my Lions today, and then Damian Harris of the New England Patriots. And all of these guys are less than 50% owned in the major platforms. On ESPN, Hines is 34%. Harris is 30% on ESPN, where on Yahoo, they're all under 50% ownership. So these are all guys that in a pinch, you're going to get something out of. And because, just like you said about Rivers liking to dump off to his running backs, Hines tends to be the biggest beneficiary of this because they roll him out into the flat. I watched it all game today. They kept rolling him out to the flats, and he is fast enough to just make things happen. What's your take on these three guys, and then kind of how do you rank them if you're looking for running back help? Who's the most appealing to Mr. Sullivan?
I think of these three, the guy that is probably the most appealing to me is Damian Harris. I think he's slowly taking hold of that backfield. He had a nice game today, scored a touchdown, went over 100 yards again. He runs sort of mean, which I like. Like he's sort of a bigger body guy, and he kind of runs into contact instead of shying away from it. So I like that style of back. Hasty would be number two, just simply because he's one of the only guys that's still there. Like Tevin Coleman came back off IR, and he might be going right back on it. He left early with a knee injury. McKinnon he's tired, and Shanahan made note of saying he was resting his legs last week. He looked awful today. And Hines I like, and he's going to be getting those passes and those dump offs, but Jordan Wilkins looked good today. I still can't figure out what's going on with Jonathan Taylor. Like, that's a really unclear backfield for me. Now, if Rivers is going to keep throwing the ball to his running backs, absolutely, I want me some Nyheim Hines, but I don't know if I can trust that. So I would probably want to grab myself Harris first out of these three, then Hasty, then Hines. How about yourself?
I would agree, 100%. I think there's a lot of value to be had in that San Francisco running back room. Depending on who's the guy that's playing, he's going to get plenty of action. So Hasty definitely is appealing and attractive, and the Patriots are stuck having to force feed the running game because we watched Cam is not moving the ball very well through the air. Things are just not looking great. So Harris is definitely the most appealing, then Hasty, then Hines for sure. And if you knew Hines was going to get you plenty of action each week, I'd be comfortable with it, but 2 touchdowns a week is not acceptable. He's had 2 touchdowns one game and then 2 touchdowns this week, and other than that, it's been a lot of just kind of disappearing act. So
totally,
it's with caution on Nyheim Hines, but he's definitely got the talent.
Yeah.
Wide receiver, we've got my Detroit Lions Marvin Jones, who has come back from his disappearing act. Jalen Reagor of the Philadelphia Eagles, and Corey Davis, who people are not believing in, but he's finally, he's having the Devontae Parker 5th-year breakout performance this year. He just keeps getting the love. So what's your take on these guys?
This was the season that I called an exorcist, and I rid myself of my Corey Davis love, and that's not looking so good this year. I was really surprised to see that he's under 40% owned on ESPN and under 50% on Yahoo. I think perhaps he was dropped when he was on the COVID list, but you got to pick this guy back up. He's a major player in that offense. They're throwing the ball more than I thought they would this year, and he's a 1B to the 1A that A.J. Brown is in that offense. Marvin Jones is looking like he's probably going to have a potential to have a good opportunity here. I don't know how severe Kenny Galladay's hip injury was, but it did knock him out today in the second quarter and hurt my fantasy heart a little bit when I saw that. And Jalen Reagor, fresh back off IR. He's already caught a touchdown pass tonight. He's been targeted a few times. Kid's got a ton of talent. This is the opportunity, I think, to get Reagor before he gets picked up rather heavily. So if I'm ranking them, I'm going to go Davis, Reagor, Jones. How about you, sir?
Yeah, I would do that as well. Marvin Jones, the thing that I worry about is, okay, now that Galladay's back down again, does he go back to being non-existent? Because it seemed like when teams were putting their best corners on Jones, he was having trouble. The first few weeks of this season, Galladay was out, Jones was not existent. So the thing you have to weigh is, was it truly he was getting locked down by the team's corner, or was it they were still trying to figure out and rounding into form because there was no preseason? Like, that's a conversation that will continue to be had.
Totally.
So Jones would definitely be number 3 on the list, but if he's getting the lion's share of targets, no pun intended, he is definitely startable on a week-to-week basis because he's probably going to get 5 to 7, 8 targets and probably going to catch most of those because he is a pretty sure-handed receiver. Corey Davis, the love is there. Rick and I were huge on him, along with you and some of the other guys on the team. Most of us in the dynasty format have probably been selling our shares, but in the redraft format, I've tried to trade for him in a couple redraft leagues and it's not easy to acquire them. People are, if you have them, you love it, and it's going to be hard to get shares of him. So if he's on your waiver wire, you got to pick him up. I mean, he's just become
100%.
too trustworthy with Tannehill.
I do like Jones's opportunity against Minnesota next week, though. When you talk about top corner, I don't think they have one.
Nope.
Dancer got hurt pretty nasty today. It looked pretty ugly with a neck injury, so he's probably not coming back anytime. And they're really, really young. So I think there's a huge opportunity. If you're just desperately plugging and playing a guy next week, Jones could be your guy.
Easily. All right, wrapping it up with tight ends. We've got Eric Ebron of the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's at 50% owned on ESPN and just under in Yahoo. Dallas Goedert of the Philadelphia Eagles, who's under 45% in ESPN and at 63% on Yahoo. And then Logan Thomas of the Washington Football Team. He's at 8% on ESPN and 21% on Yahoo, which is surprising because he's really actually performed quite well. It's just the team, nobody wants a piece of the Washington offense, but he's definitely one of those that you could grab. So what's your take on these guys and where you're ranking them?
I think Thomas might have fallen victim to teams holding on to maybe one tight end and dropping him when he went on to buy this week. Not really sure. I'm not, of these three, I like Dallas Goedert the most by a long, long shot. I'm not very intrigued by Eric Ebron, but the reality is he's a red zone relevant asset for the Steelers, and Roethlisberger likes his tight ends in the red zone. So if you need a tight end, he's definitely worth picking up. Dallas Goedert, I think he's slowly rolling back into form. I think he's been targeted once that I've seen in this game that's on right now. He's not playing a ton of snaps, so they're probably easing him back in, but he's a guy that I think as the season goes on is going to gain more and more of a lion's share of the targets there. We saw him finish as a top 10 tight end last season, and that's when Ertz was healthy. So Ertz is gone for a long time, and even with Rager back, the Eagles don't have a ton of pass-catching talent. So I like Dallas Goedert for sure. And Logan Thomas has gotten along well with Kyle Allen, and they get the Giants next week, and I think that that's an exploitable matchup. So I figure he's worth picking up if you need a tight end as well. Yourself.
Oh, yeah, especially with the tight end one group this year has not been the strongest. So if you didn't grab one of the top five and you're having to stream them on a weekly basis, these are all playable guys, and especially with the ownership percentages we're seeing of them, I would be comfortable. Now, Goddard's obviously got the most talented. As long as he's healthy, he should be top option in this passing game, quite honestly. I mean, when you think about who Wentz trusts that's on the field with him right now, Fulgham is probably one right now just because they've really built a rapport. Then probably Goddard. And then Reagor, running backs are probably around Reagor's, kind of the third option. But yeah, I'm going Goddard definitely, and then Logan Thomas only because I've been burned by Ebron so many times with drops and just lackluster play that I'll go Logan Thomas next because we're seeing some things there, and then Ebron. All these guys are very streamable though. If you need tight end help, grab them. Goddard should be a guy that stays on your roster. He shouldn't have been dropped even when he was hurt because they knew he was coming back in a few weeks. You don't want to lose that piece. So that's that. So those are all your waiver options. There weren't a ton of injuries, so we're glad for that. But week 9's coming, and we've got 3 teams that have some very relevant fantasy players on bye weeks. So these are some options for you. If you have questions, hit our Facebook community up, our Discord community up, hit us up on Twitter. You see our handles below. If you need something, RotoHeat.com. Mr. Sullivan and the team put out some great content about redraft. As well as all the other great content. We're hitting rookie draft and rookie content already. My Devi show has been putting out way too early rookie drafts, which have been fun to do, but also hilarious to critique as well. So stick it here with us. Hit the like, the subscribe, the notification icon, and we'll talk to you guys again next Sunday.
Also, right there, playlist. Hit it. Watch the videos. Do it. You want to. Do it.